Let's Top It Tuesday. I loved coming up with these silly little things, but really, today's trash day in my neighborhood, and as I was in my morning practice and meditation, I was thinking about how I wanted to do this outside in my backyard with the birds chirping and the sounds. And that noise right there that you probably hear in the background, the sound of the trash truck and the recycling trucks going by, there's the trash being taken out. Good morning, Brandy. I know you're on the West Coast, so it's morning still for you. So, today's all about taking out the trash. What is it in your life that you find is holding you back? And I'll give you a hint. It's not anything outside of you, because it's all inside of you. The trash, truly, is the stuff we need to release. The garbage, the stuff that's not serving us any longer. We're probably holding on to something, and there's a reason behind it, and that's really the reason that we're not moving forward in our lives, growing and evolving. So taking out the trash is all about releasing all the junk that you no longer need in your life because you realize it's no longer serving you. But the first part of all of that is recognizing what it is. They're on the other side of the house, so they're kind of noisy. Hopefully you can continue to hear me. So a lot of my neighbors that are getting rid of a lot of trash, because my neighborhood is really cool because they pick up anything and everything you put out to the curb. When I lived in Maryland, there was a size restriction, and you had to have it within certain perimeters, and this trash you could just throw out a tree, and I've done it, so I know, and they'll pick it up. They'll come out with the cherry picker and they'll put it in the truck. But it's awesome, and I love that. So going back to taking out the trash, and I mean your own stuff, your own junk, I think it's really important. I'm going through this more and more throughout my life, and there's always going to be something to get rid of. There's always going to be something to shed, because things come and go in our lives, and they're only meant to serve a certain purpose. Maybe a small duration of your life, maybe a large duration of your life. But life is all about ebb and flow and moving through it with grace and ease, and not getting caught up in the trauma, not attaching ourselves to things, people, places, and things. Because we get attached to everything. But the first thing we get attached to is our belief system. And that's the hardest one to knock, and the one that needs the most work, because we have to tap in and recognize where it started, what it's about, where it came from, where you got it, because you didn't just pick it up, you learned everything that has created the belief system you've had over the course of your life. And I guarantee you it's probably shifted even in the time you've been around and alive, along with your habits and your behaviors. So even so, we often will identify with the belief of who we are versus recognizing that we are not that which we identify with. So we get attached, right? And I was reflecting upon addiction this morning, how, wow, we all have our vices. We all have addictions. But is your vice nice to yourself and to others? Someone want to type that in there? I like that. Your vice, is it nice? Share the love. I want to really get this out there, because we all need to clear out our garbage. We all need to work on the stuff and get rid of it. And in some cases, we think we need to do something, or we need to work with something, or keep it around because we need to do something with it. But maybe all we need to do is let it go. And that's what I'm here for, because I want to share with you the things I'm going to go through my house and get rid of and let go. And I can tell you right now, it will bring up things that I can't guarantee, because it's all about emotional purging as well as physical purging. Because everything has some meaning to it, has energy that works and revolves around it, that once you shift your vibe, you can let go of things easier. But sometimes it's also a releasing of something that's also held your vibe down too. So we all want to elevate and celebrate, right? And we need to celebrate the little milestones. And so one of the other beautiful ways that you can work through, and as I was reflecting upon addiction, why not make it ceremonious? When you decide, when you are ready, because nobody's going to tell you when you're ready, only you know when you're ready. When you're ready to release and let go of something, create it in such a celebratory way that you enjoy every essence of that last time you're going to do that. Let's say, I'm not a smoker, so I really can't relate to cigarette smoking, but let's just say you're giving up smoking finally. Make time to be present in that last cigarette, to really just go, thank you so much. Really bless the cigarette and bless yourself in the situation, because the cigarette has served you. The addiction always serves for that time. But again, like I said, is the vice nice? It's not kind to the body. And that's where you need to recognize what serves and doesn't. So celebrate it. Tell the cigarette, thank you so much for serving me and keeping me afloat during times of stress. When I reached for you, you've always been there. You served me as my support, whatever it is, because that's what an addiction is. It's reaching for something that calms you in moments of stress. And quite often we reach for it and don't even recognize the stress. Not to the point where we can go, oh my gosh, I'm reaching for this and I'm not even thinking about it, but you have to see the connection. So bless it. And then if it is cigarettes that you're celebrating and releasing, when you smoke it, I want you to really enjoy it. Enjoy it because it is your last time. Enjoy it like it is your last time, even if you do come back to it later. But the beauty in life is recognizing that every moment that we are doing something, we're not meant to beat ourselves up about why we're doing it or that we're doing it. Often I'll be with friends who say to me, because they see me with them and they know that I'm very, I try to honor my body as best as I can, so I will eat what will nourish my body, and I'll have others around me that I can tell they're very they're very self-conscious about what they eat around me, because in their mind they're already judging themselves, so they think I'm judging them, but I'm not, because everybody's going to choose in their own time. But the reality is they'll say, I know this isn't good for me. So I know in their mind what they're basically saying is, I'm sabotaging myself. And so they're actually not enjoying what it is they're taking in. Because you can't nourish your body even if it's something horrible. Bless the food no matter what it is, but enjoy it. Enjoy it like it's the last time. Take pleasure in every bite. Take pleasure in whatever it is you're releasing. For that last time, when you're fully present, bless it and release it. Thank it. Be grateful, because it brings you to different points in your life. And make that the milestone that you have set. Today I decided to release that crap, because I know it served me up to this point. And it's really important to recognize that there will be something else to replace it, to make you feel good about yourself, to uplift you. And maybe you won't be ready to release one thing until you find that replacement. But that's the beauty. Life is constantly evolving. We're ebb and flow. expanding, contracting. So who out there is ready to release some trash, put it to the curb, and unleash their life in the direction that it was meant to be? Any questions or comments? I have my sunglasses on because it is still bright outside, which is nice. There's blue sky, there's some puffy white clouds. It did rain this morning, so my garden is very happy. I love that, Brandy. Yes, me. I know for me, my biggest issue is the problem I have that goes on in here. Because when we go back to it, what is it that's holding you back? It's me. And the most important thing you can do is take personal responsibility, because we're not going to move forward until we recognize that we're the ones holding ourselves forward. And you have to be kind about it in the way that you do it, because you can't just say, we already have several, negative self-talk, and most of us aren't even hearing ourselves say it, but we're just doing it habitually. Just like anything in life, if you don't change up your routine, you can't see where your routine was prior, which is why it is so important to kind of change things up once in a while. Because when you get too caught up in a routine, it can actually cause you problems, but only you notice that, only you can recognize that and see how it's serving you. So yeah, my belief systems, when I started looking at them, and Date with Destiny with Anthony Robbins was one of the big ones that really made me aware of it. I miss you too. Yeah, it's truly, it really is a time for moving forward for all of us. And it's great that we have these communities to come together and support one another, and to see that other people are just as human as we are. And then when I share my story, I know that I'm not the only one who has these same hang-ups, right? These attachments. And so when I took Beyond Addiction with Satkar, who I saw logged on, hi, Satnam, Waheguru, many blessings. I came face to face with some of my craziest, I had no idea addictions. I've lived with chronic pain all my life, but never considered that pain is also an addiction, because like a trusty friend, it was there every single morning with me, and I could anticipate it to be there. And sometimes that's actually what keeps it there. That's why we don't release dis-ease, because sometimes the dis-ease is what keeps us addicted, right? So the dis-ease in the mind, the belief system, the stories, it really boils down to stories. I don't even really want to say disabled. I'm a veteran of the Air Force, and I am recognized as a disabled veteran. I have over 50% disability as far as physical ailments that have been a result of my time in service. I was sharing with somebody yesterday how you could look at me, and I often get these comments about, oh, you're so tiny, you're so flexible, you can do anything, what are you talking about? Whenever I would mention I was inflamed. And I don't mean inflamed or fat, because I don't talk to myself like that. I just see inflammation means that something in my body is fighting something off, because that's really what that is. And it could even be foods, because it will cause that inflammation, which is really your body fighting off some foreign substance of some nature, or healing itself. So people will look at me and think there's nothing wrong with me. But my right hip, for example, over 2 years ago, I was given a referral for me to go for surgery to have the hip ground down. It sounds really bad. I'm not really a big fan of surgery. So the idea of going under the knife really doesn't appeal to me. And I have not, because I'm relying on my body to heal itself. Because when I said to the doctor, oh, that can be done with laser now with today's technology, right? No, they have to cut all around the hip to get into the ball socket and to smooth down, I'll say smooth instead of grind because it really sounds more like grinding to me, the bone where scar tissue has joined around it, okay? And I've been told that if it gets worse, it could end up rubbing on the ligaments and the muscles and the tendons around it, causing further damage. So I've really resorted to being much kinder to my body and allowing my body to heal as a result. But the idea that I have this impingement that creates pain, yes, I can sit in easy seated position in yoga and look like I'm comfortable, but it'll pinch, it'll ping, I have to move it, the foot will go to sleep. These are the things that when you look at people, you have no idea what is going on with those people. And awesome! I'm loving that news, Brandy. That is see, Brandy is one of my close friends I've known since high school. And I am so humbled and honored. She stayed with me on a weekend when she was here visiting in town. And you know, I was just grateful to have her in my presence. And when people stay with me that I love and cherish, I cook and prepare. I really didn't cook anything, but raw vegan. And I really wasn't thinking in terms of changing anybody. I just wanted to share some of my yummy recipes with them. And she was here and she totally embraced it. And we had great conversations and walks along the trail, which I miss, by the way. It's always nice to have somebody with you. And was sharing with me her story with her blood tests being out of balance. And if you don't mind, I'm going to share that she had problems with her thyroid, which is very common for women as a result of a lot of processed foods. Soy is probably the biggest killer of our thyroid. And I can't speak for her diet. Yeah, I know. I'm watching you. You're doing great. It's not about going vegan or going fully raw overnight. It's about seeing how it works for you. And even in those short few days that she was with me, she was like really excited and impressed. And she said she was ready for change at that moment. And I knew when she said it, it was going to change her life and that it was going to continue to unfold. And I'm grateful because I've been watching you, Brandy, and I just feel so blessed that you even trusted me so much to come and stay and be open to it without me even trying to push it on you. And so I'm very, very proud of you because I know it starts in the mind. You know, so many people will say, well, where do you get your protein? There was a lady who did a video yesterday, and it's one of the biggest myths out there that you need protein because of this food pyramid, right? There's this food pyramid, but what people don't realize with the food pyramid is the food pyramid actually breaks you down. That SAD diet, the standard American diet that they came out with, when you take in protein, your body has to break it down into the amino acids that it needs to build the body up. So imagine the aging process is increased anytime it has to break something down from the actual foundation that it needs to build. Because your body doesn't need protein, it builds protein. If you really, it came to me one day, and this is how I intuited it. Our bodies create protein. True protein is only going to come from animal source. It's only going to come from blood, guts, fluids, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, other excretion areas, right? And if you stop and think about that, that means that you have to eat another sentient being in order to consume it, to consume protein. But here's the key. We don't need protein to build it. It's the opposite, actually. We need amino acids. And the full spectrum of amino acids will actually give your body everything it needs to build the protein that your body needs. But it's you creating it, not going outside for another animal source to give it to you. Because all that's going to do is age you, right? Isn't that crazy when you think about it? You got wrinkles, your body's, out of joint, you got aches and pains, you got heart disease, cardiovascular disease. For men, the hardest thing to give up is meat because, they've been taught, but guess what it does to you? Cardiovascular disease, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't eat it, but if you reduce it, you may notice a difference in your vitality overall, your well-being. So when I really was sitting with that, I was going, wow, okay, I get it, because the pyramid's upside down. Ultimately, what you need is more amino acid-based foods. Because of marketing and advertising, most people are really drawn to things that say protein source on them, but it's not that it's a protein source, because none of what's in those protein sources is protein. They're amino acid complex spectrum covering what you need to build your own protein. And if we could educate more people, we would be in a better shape, this world. A lot of the advertising out there is really just to get you to buy it. It's not to get you educated. You have to do that for yourself. So that might be one thing you need to release today. These old myths. And do your own research. And recognize what it is your body needs to be vital and strong and powerful. So then, and that's the thing for me. I just want to share information with people because I know that I didn't have a lot of this information when I was going through certain points in my life. I can't say I would have listened to it if somebody had just given it to me, but I also know myself to be very hardcore, that when I decide to do something, I'm all or nothing. I'm in it for the long haul. And then, because I'm a little extreme, I didn't just go vegan overnight, but what I saw was I transitioned as a result of noticing that I was allergic to wheat and gluten from when I cooked it and prepared it the one time. And meat just naturally fell off my plate, and I wasn't intending that. And a girlfriend reached out to me, and she said, why don't you just go vegan? I was like, I hadn't really considered it because I hadn't been eating meat, and I hadn't looked over what my diet consisted of. I said, oh. And I didn't declare that's what I was doing, but I started seeing that I was drawn to the raw vegan restaurant, and I was interacting with more people, and then I started looking up more, and I bought books like The Raw Food Factor, which was phenomenal and very informative. Susan Schenck is the author on that book, and it's written in her book that she spent over 5 years researching just the information she put in it. And I can totally appreciate that, because a lot of us, we didn't go to school to learn this stuff. We just got really consumed with the passion and the drive behind wanting to know. And that's how I get. So, for example, if you knew me when I was younger, I had people tell me later, after meeting me and getting to know me, they said that I had a very extreme, unapproachable demeanor, that when they met me, they said, I had people come up to me, I didn't really know you that well, and I just kind of thought you were a bitch, just from looking at you. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, because that's who I am. I'm not a bitch. I can be. I think everybody can be, but that's not my nature. That's not who I am. And they said, but getting to know you, you're actually really nice, and I just wanted to let you know that. And I was like, oh. And then I thought, everybody thinks I'm a bitch then. It's funny how the mind goes. But that was when I was in high school and going to school with Brandy. But over the course of my life, I have gone through extremes. I was an extreme workout enthusiast. I was high impact everything, because, if you don't work hard, how are you going to see results? I had to sweat. If I didn't sweat, that didn't mean it meant I didn't work hard enough. So I'd push myself that extra bit. But I also didn't see that extreme was also breaking me down physically, because on top of accidents in my time, my life, it compounded the injuries that woke me up to, I really can't do that as much. Yeah, Brandy, it's kind of, you wouldn't see it so much because you were one of my good friends. But that was after a party that I had thrown at my house. But yeah, it's very humbling because sometimes we do need the contrast, but the extremes are what really get us. So when you're really far extreme over here and somebody challenges you over here, it's either going to do one of two things. And depends on how flexible your mind is. Either it's going to awaken you to thinking, wow, I had never considered that. Maybe I should look into that further. Or it's going to create a huge ego reaction that's like, who are you to tell me? And I've been on both sides. I was extreme ego. Oh no, who are you to tell me? Especially when I would go through, when I lived in Italy and I was in a relationship that wasn't serving me, and people would say, just be happy. Did you see what he did? Who are you to tell me to be happy? How can I be happy? And da, 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 da. I was crazy. I mean, and ladies out there, if you are anything like that, I'm telling you, there's nobody else who can make you crazy but you. If you're dependent on somebody else in a relationship, that is the last thing you need. You know, if you go and you meet somebody and think, oh, this could be the one, and you're already formulating in your mind, you need to step back and look within yourself, because when we think we think certain things sometimes, and it's a belief system. So when I was growing up, and the reason I relate to this is because when I was growing up, I watched all the Disney movies. You know, it was all about finding Prince Charming and living happily ever after. In my case, I had certain goals and visions in my mind, so I really wanted to do certain things before I got married. And as a result, I'll tell you right now, I had love when I was in high school. And if Aaron sees this when he sees this, he was the love of my life, and I truly, truly am still in love with him, because this is, you can't make stuff up. We had something very special between us, and I'm grateful he trusted me to come to my home and be with me when he was going through his mourning period. Because what happens is we don't trust ourselves, and that was my big deal. I didn't trust myself enough back then to know what love was, and that love can move mountains, and that when you're with somebody and it's authentic, sometimes when you're used to abusive situations or used to chaotic environments, or maybe your parents argued and fought all the time, so maybe that's your idea of love, so you repeat it and relive it. And that's what I did. I saw my parents, they weren't happy, it was an unhealthy relationship, so I manifested relationships after Aaron that were like that. But as a result of the time I was in my life, and my parents sitting me down and saying, you still got to think about your future, and I wasn't fully trusting myself at that age. I was in my senior year in high school still. I had to finish one more year. I broke up with him, and I did it in a not so kind way, mostly because he was hard-headed, and I know he wouldn't, and he'll tell you, the only way I could break up with him and get him to do what he needed to do in his life was to tell him I cheated on him, and that wasn't the case at the time. It really wasn't. And I thought it was the only way I could push him away, but also thought, and this was a stupid thing, in the back of my mind I still lingered, that maybe in the future we could come back together. But I kind of sabotaged myself by saying that, what I did, lie or otherwise. And it wasn't until later that we had a really good conversation, and I expressed to him what was really going on. So we did have that awareness and closure. So when we come into relationships, and even after that, I held a torch for him for many, many, many years, even up until he got married a couple years ago. And that was tough. You don't realize it until you start sitting with yourself and recognizing that you have a belief system, or you hold on to an attachment to something you still want in the life. And so living with these ideals of Cinderella and what have you, in my mind I still thought, well, I'm supposed to get my degree, and I want to buy a house, and then I can get married. But I didn't want to get married till I was 25 at least, because I felt like I had to have these other things going on in my life before I could do it. Well, me being very good at goal setting and reaching those goals, I did everything I needed to do before I turned 25. And then all of a sudden my mind started looking at the men I was dating, the man I was dating at the time, and questioning if that was the one. Not looking at the whole picture, which is even more important. And I am sitting here in a swarm of mosquitoes, which is the only reason I keep looking down at my legs. Man, you guys are really aggressive. Okay. So, as a result of all this, I had to kind of sit with this, what I call the white picket fence syndrome. The white picket fence syndrome. What is that? It's the idea that, okay, I got my degree, I found the man, I have this great job, we get married, I quit my job, have children, and life is just hunky-dory. But you know what's interesting is having had that belief and that idea in my life, that after a certain point, I started to see people, women around me, who had gotten married and had children and were totally dissatisfied and unhappy with their lives. And they kind of woke me up to how they hadn't lived, but they were really caught in the tunnel of that white picket fence syndrome. And I had more compassion, and it really started to push me back a little, and I was continually working on myself, even if I didn't see how. Especially when I was in the military, because a lot of people, it was just the ways that, oh, my man is deploying, I need to get married, or that's just what happened in the relationships. But seeing people get divorced, and that was something that I never saw for myself. I really wanted to be with the right person and know that it was right if that was my path. So therefore, I've never been married. And if I do get married, it's going to have to be something seriously special. Even relationships right now, the whole celibacy discussion, for example, just the next person in my life, honestly, has to be at a certain bar for themselves, let alone for me. And it's not about compromising myself or that other person compromising themselves. It's about complementing each other. It's about bringing out the best in one another. Because love is not about compromise, because it just is, no matter the circumstances. So I invite you all to look at that. I mean, what are your patterns and your belief systems? Do you date? Are you single? Are you married? Are you attached to this person because they're there? Or is there really a true love bond between you? If you ever have to question things between you and another person that you're in a relationship that you can't speak openly about, that is not necessarily the best union, right? There are things that women need to convene and share with one another that don't necessarily need to be shared with a partner. I am a true believer in men have their tribe and women have their tribe. Men and men, women and women, because I think that we understand each other as women and men understand each other as men. And when we come together, the way we get to know one another is through interaction, but when we get to know ourselves better, it's easier to make ourselves available on all levels. So that's why when you commune with your tribe, all the women together and then all the men together in their own, you're learning about yourself through others. And then you can extend that through an intimate union with a man or a woman, or whatever your preference. In the end, it's really about working on yourself and not looking for another person to complete you, because nobody can complete you. And if you can't be alone with yourself in silence and enjoyment and just, oh, I'm so grateful, what makes you think you can be happy with somebody else? So we have to confront a lot of what we're going through in life in order to be able to be healthy, healed, strong, compassionate, loving towards another. Yeah. So what is it you're going to do to top this Tuesday? What are you ready to put the trash out? There's a beautiful thing that I watch Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks channels Abraham on YouTube. I love to watch some of those videos just to be reminded. And she will usually say that you need to get in the vortex, right? And you need to focus on being in the space of tapped in, turned on, and tuned in. And I think that is fantastic, because you need to be tapped in, turned on, and tuned in to your source to really just, what is it that is I'm out there. I'm here. I'm here for you, world. Carl, you're just showing up. That's okay. You can watch it all again. So, it's a beautiful day. It always is. And any day, not just Tuesday, is a good day to release what is no longer serving you.